want me to go ahead and schedule us, and just, I thought Tom might have some factual information I may not have. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everybody. It is September 22nd, 2016. The time is 6:02 p.m. This is the evening, what do we call this? The second and final public hearing to adopt the proposed millage rates and proposed budget for fiscal year 2016 through 2017, and adoption of resolutions. I've done this already, so everybody else turn your phones off. I did do it this time. Sorry about that last week. Well, that was a brand new phone. I just got it repaired, just got it back, threw it in my hat. It's been a long day. Okay, so we will now open up an order of business and open up a public hearing and ask for staff report on the second and final public hearing to adopt proposed millage rates and proposed budget for fiscal year 2016-2017, the adoption of resolutions. Before you begin, I need to let everybody know that's in the room and listening on the internet, in the building, wherever, if you have questions about your tax bill this year, they only look at it to make sure they're not going to ask budget questions. Just deal with your millage rate taxes. Morgan Gilraith's office is opened up downstairs. So if you need to go down there and talk to him, please go down there and talk to him now. And if you're on the internet listening to us, come on over to the building here, and we will go ahead and you can go on down there and talk to him there. All right. I don't know, is Mr. Deneen or Ms. Baldwin going to begin this?
I'm gonna make some introductory comments.
Please.
First and foremost to the council. Last meeting that we had with the first reading of the budget, we had two people that came forward. We had people that came forward that were very supportive. We had two people that had concerns. I talked to both and addressed the issues on both of them. One person, as you know, was a speculator, bought property out of this county and had some issues about value. We looked at that. They grew. His properties grew in real value. And we talked about his taxes. The issue there was I think he had misinterpreted how that worked. And when we were done, I could not find a reason for the basis for his argument based on the math once we corrected the math. Okay, but he's different. He was an outsider and it was the one person that had a house that lives here, which we take very serious in terms of the residential tax bill, he made some statements about trying to hold taxes down and that his taxes had gone up and he was concerned. I had concerns about his comment only because I didn't believe that the math would add up the way he said, and so I wanted to see it. He was a really nice guy. He came back. We went over his tax bill, Don and I, and in the end, it turns out his taxes had gone down across the board, especially county taxes. And he was appreciative of that, and there was no way that it got in the record that day. So for the only two complaints that we had, one of them I don't see a basis for. The second, there was no basis for it. The second one, the gentleman's taxes actually went down. And so I don't believe his comments were based on a misimpression that his taxes went up. Okay? That being said, what I'd like...
Mr. Patterson has a comment?
Yeah, you know, as the chair of the Value Adjustment Board, and Ms. Denny's and I are both on there, we are the ones, if somebody does want to contest what their property values are, they can go before the Value Adjustment Board. It actually goes before a magistrate, and it can be further appealed to the Value Adjustment Board. So there is a recourse in there. I think a lot of people don't know that the Value Adjustment Board actually exists. So just get that out there, and I would suggest getting with the property appraiser and go through there. I
explained to the one gentleman. It wasn't his value. It was the one gentleman. I explained to him he could go to the board. That was the person from out of county. The in-county person, there was just some kind of a misreading, and I think he was afraid that his taxes had gone up, and they really had not gone up. So I think it was appropriate for me to tell the council not what it turned out to be. We tend not to really try to answer those things here, so I wanted you to make sure that I was concerned because it didn't add up to me. And so when we found out, it turned out that, and he was nice about it and said that, his taxes did go down. He admitted they'd gone down.
Both seem to be very nice gentlemen. Okay.
All right.
Ms. Bong?
Before I go any further, I have a question for the council. As you know, I presented the budget. We're here for the second reading. We delivered the large final book to you on the dynamic master plan. As I admitted, or I told you, my budget, this is the basis for the budget on the money that's in it based on the expenditures, based on our big goals. What I would like to do for the public's sake is give a very short overview of just what this is, and because I think it would be appropriate. Marilyn Ford, who did a wonderful job for us. I am so impressed with what she did. And I spent a lot of time with all the departments going through all the stuff all the way back to 2006 on the things that the first council I had inherited, it, the policies and where we were, all the planning sessions we had, and then went through all the mini budgets, all the things that we changed in the comprehensive plan, put it all in one document. I'm very pleased. The only thing I wish I had done was I wish I had done it earlier. Because in essence, when I'm producing a budget, I'm producing it to implement the plans and the goals that you set out. But in a lot of ways, it's intuitive based on what I know we are doing in all our departments, and I'm supposed to be responsible for knowing that. What I hadn't done, and I talked to actually Mr. Daniels about this, and I wish I had done it earlier, is I hadn't put them in one place where you can reference them. And you can reference, for example, if you say economic development, not only do you see the goal, go back to you can go back to the indices in the back. It'll show you everything we're doing programmatically in there to do economic development, which is where it ought to be. And then today, just to show how, we call it the dynamic master plan, today, a big goal, like if you take goal number 2 on achieving strong economic health tied to job growth, industry balance, and financial soundness, that's the policy, that's the goal on why you would have done Embry-Riddle today. And so what we are now, that you voted for that, and you made that an objective, we will show in this dynamic master plan where that is, how it fits under economic development, and then we will have the budget to back it up, because as you saw, the numbers are there, that we moved around, that shows all the numbers. The same with the comprehensive plan, Josh, on transit. Going back on, we will actually, now that you said that you accepted that report, that will fit under our goals, okay, of promoting health and safety and provide services to meet needs of citizens and practice and stewardship of the environment, okay, and also to foster partnership to deliver exceptional services. It'll fit under those goals. It actually can fit under achieving strong economic health. We will list that, and we will list that as part and add that to our dynamic master plan as a goal that you're trying to achieve. So in the future, as we move forward, say there's a way you want to modify it, you want to add money to it, or we get money, then it would be automatically included. So this plan will be a constant document you should keep with you that will constantly monitor and change on everything we do financially. Like I said, the only thing I'm sorry about is I had not done it earlier. But then again, we had an opportunity with Marilyn. I'm not sure anybody could have done it as well as she did. I can either do this first for a couple of minutes and then go through the numbers in the budget, or do the numbers in the budget first and then do that. I thought it'd be better to do the plan for a few minutes first. And because you go right into the budget, then you get into if you want to vote for the tax millage and all that. So what would you like me to do? Do the plan first?
I would do the overall plan. Let's do the dynamic master plan first, because that will dovetail into where we're going. But with that being said, will there be a link on our site? I think this dynamic master plan should be published.
Absolutely.
We'll do a drop down.
We're going to put it in a number of places. Now, it's going to keep changing, so we're going to have to, so the electronic version will be the best because it'll change the quickest. But for at least yearly, we'll put a copy at the library, things like that. But we will also have it on the web, and so there'll be a link. And I'm anticipating, like now, we're going to modify it for the things you did today. The beauty of this is, that's what I like about this. Everything you do, like today, goes in a plan. Nothing gets lost.
It's in there.
It's in there, and nothing. We can change things if we want. What I'll do is at a quarterly, I'll review the changes with you, but I won't wait that long. For example, we will work on putting Emery-Riddle in here, and the same with the transit plan. We'll put them in as we get them, and then quarterly, I'll show you the update is what I'll do.
So we're gonna coordinate this with the strategic improvement, our capital improvement. plan.
Absolutely. In fact,
So-
that'll be quarterly updated too. And like I told you, I'll tell you if something happens earlier than that. So you will constantly be using this book. Now, and Marilyn will explain. Marilyn, do you mind coming down? And I do owe her a thanks of gratitude. I mean, my whole staff worked on this, but she took on a yeoman's job of trying to pull together everything from everybody. And this was, it ended up a labor of love. I'm not sure it started that way.
That's
Marilyn?
a fair statement. Marilyn Chandler Ford, Corrections Director. It really has been my privilege to work on this dynamic master plan. We have a real quick overview of it, particularly for those in the audience who have not seen it and for those listeners at home. There will be copies of this binder that I think at this point is about a 3-inch binder, may grow, in the libraries and, as we said, available electronically. Okay. This really is the starting point. The bedrocks are the points of our success. 3 things: thriving communities, economic and financial vitality, and excellence in government. Where do these come from? In reality, councils in 2006, 2007, and in 2014 talked about these things. They may have used different words, in fact they did, but you were all talking and working toward the same thing. So one of my challenges was taking all this information, trying to get my arms around it, and get it down into a way that is approachable, easy to remember, and timeless. And so all of the goals that you've had over the past 10 years, and in fact, some of these are even referenced in different language. In 1998, I found a goal-setting pamphlet from that council, has been about creating thriving communities, economic and financial vitality, and excellence in government. Thriving communities, what does it mean? Promote the health and safety, provide services to meet needs of citizens, and practice stewardship of the environment. And that sentence, it really describes everything we do in the county, from animal control to mosquito, Zika education, stormwater, all sorts of services that the county provides.
I've got to stop Marilyn here for a second to say, when you try, this is amazing, to take all these different things that we do and try to put them in one statement that we can understand, that makes sense, and you can and remember it if you want to, is unbelievable, and that we all agree that she captured it. That, because you know, what good is it if you can't use it, can't remember it, or put it on a shelf? And that's what we're trying not to do. So, amazing, amazing.
Well, I think thriving communities, when you listen to council, when you read what department directors talk about, that's what our vision really is for Volusia as well as all of the cities. Specific objectives underneath that goal: engage in infrastructure and regulatory actions to protect and enhance citizens' experience, enrich and preserve the natural resources, provide a broad range of services for the physical, mental, social well-being of citizens, and provide a safe and secure community through prevention, readiness, and professional response. So what you have found and what users will find in Appendix C are the spreadsheets or the matrix of works, and every department and division has listed specific action steps or strategies that they have done. For example, your emergency management activities in terms of hosting training sessions, that fits under the 4th objective: provide a safe and secure community through prevention, readiness, and professional response. That encompasses many of the divisions under public protection. Enriching and preserving the natural resources, that's many of the growth management, and also some of the parks, recreation, and culture. Second goal, economic and financial vitality. what has been said in many different ways. We want to achieve strong economic health tied to job growth with industry balance and financial soundness.
So let's stop right there. Today, when Embry-Riddle, we go after opportunities, we try to seek them out, we try to create them. Some come before us. They came before us. The reason that we decided to sell them land for the research park and we decided to give infrastructure is because they met this goal. They clearly met this goal. So you in other words, you made a decision because it was in the best interest of the community, because this was a way to achieve one of the ways to achieve your goal. Now we will now put that in as one of the activities under the plan.
Okay, and here are some of the specific objectives. A community that attracts and retains business. This is what economic development works after. Develop and retain an educated, ready workforce matched to varying job opportunities. Certainly some of the new initiatives that Human Resources have done in terms of electronic applications and some of the other things they're doing, diversity initiatives, are working toward this objective. Allocate limited resources fairly and efficiently, and services and decisions are financially sustainable. When you talked about the bond financing today for Daytona 1, clearly fits under these type of objectives in this goal. Goal 3, excellence in government. Foster partnerships to deliver exceptional services. And you're going to recognize objectives that you've done. Maintain and foster productive relationships with public and private partners. High level of customer service. Decisions and actions demonstrate leadership, and you meet community expectations for quality.
And once again, today, with the strategy we have for One Daytona, fits right in.
So, and a lot of these goals are overlapping and intersecting. So, we've got the goals. Let's draw it back to the larger picture, the mission. We used to have a mission that went on for 4 lines. You probably can't remember it very much. Boiled it down, hopefully to something that talks about who we are, to provide responsive and fiscally responsible services for the health, safety, and quality of life of our citizens. And then the vision is that same idea, but it's more of a heart aspirational statement. We want to be a community rich with resources and opportunities today and for generations to come. Any questions? I will say one of the reasons that we didn't give you a bound document and we gave you the binder is because this is a dynamic living plan. What you did today is going to be incorporated. That's going to be interesting as we move through to try and come up with a coherent way so you can track what moves from a project that is ongoing to something that is finally achieved, and then we can also add on new initiatives such as you did today at council. But we're committed to doing that.
I would say that almost every meeting we have, if you get into any in-depth discussion, it's definitely going to be on all these goals, will affect this plan. The other thing is, which you struggle with, and Ms. Denny's, maybe this will make it easier for her to tell our story. For example, you want to know what we're doing in economic development, like the ongoing activities, you just turn to the matrix. And I think people will be shocked. And here's the point. If you decide you want to do more or you want to change it, look at what we're doing, look at what we've done, and then what we can decide is, do we want to change that? Do we want to add to it? Do we want to scrap something? What's it going to cost? But it won't be a blank sheet of paper, because we're not a blank sheet of paper. We move as a pay it forward in increments from council member to council member over the period of years. So, I'll give a good example is Josh. He'll be finishing up his 8 years. You inherited a lot when you got here, but you're leaving your mark because you're leaving a lot. So you're paying. There's a lot of things you did you won't see the results of until the future. There's a lot of things that we achieved because of things that were done earlier. Some of them you got to do both. You got to set it, and then you also got to see the fruits of your labor. The bottom line is, I do think that I'm not interested. I've been through this process. I'm not interested if it's not dynamic. I'm not interested if it's not real. something with a whole bunch of bubbles that nobody ever looks at is not what I'm about. If you say, what should we have as a plan that's real and what we're actually doing and that you can point to, and here, everything we do, you can point to, is in the matrix. Somebody asks you what we're doing on something, just point them to the matrix. And now, what that means, I think it's a healthy start if you want to make a change. Now, the budget that you're going to see today is the financial plan to make all this real. And that's why I presented it that way. This is the underpinnings of the financial plan that we're going to hand you. So what is it based on? It's all these activities that we're either doing or about to do or engaged in one form or another. And that's what they cost. That's why they cost what they cost.
Thank you.
Marilyn, unbelievable job. I think we owe her a real debt of gratitude. She really stepped up, and with her background, her skills, I think she found a whole new career, okay? But remarkable job boiling this stuff down and working with everybody. And everybody that I talked to said that she was so enthusiastic and she worked so hard to put it together that they went out of their way to really do a good job of giving her the information. And everybody told me that they were impressed that you put it all together, and all the work that they did putting it together will not be wasted, that we will use it in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hold on, Ms. Ford. Ms. Denny's has comments, and so does Mr. Wagner. So, Ms. Denny's, you're first.
First of all, thank you, Marilyn, and thank you, Mr. Manager, for listening to what council has said in your review last year. I remember that conversation and the report that you submit to council with everything that's been achieved. And it was good, but I couldn't connect the dots. I couldn't connect the dots. And so this is part of telling the story, and there's so much that happens. There's so much that this organization does and all the departments. But it was like moving Jell-O around every time I looked at a budget or project. Now, I think for the first time ever, because of this dynamic master plan and the capital improvement plan that will go along with this and updated quarterly, it's just an amazing document and really does tell the stories. It's so transparent and comprehensive to fill in the blank, and going forward with your Go to Zero, with the commitment to go to zero in 2018, for the other projects, that we offered the opportunities all the time to participate in. You can't say we're not doing this or we're not doing that, because it's in there. It's in the matrix or the plan, whatever you want to call it. So this is a wonderful guiding document, and will just strengthen everything that we're doing, and I believe will insulate us. I don't know if that's the right word, but when somebody comes along, they've got a project, they want to put it in the hopper for the hopper effect, fine, but here it is. It's got to fit these parameters. Right. If it's not in here, it's not in there. So great job. Seriously, Mr. Manager, to your staff and to Marilyn, all the work that went into this, this is the best thing ever. Thank you.
Mr. Wagner?
Everything she just said, but I wanted to personally thank you. Obviously, the staff, thank you very much, but that's a very difficult thing to do. You have to be a smart person to be able to handle something like that, and I know you're up there, so Marilyn, thank you dearly.
Thank you.
Outstanding, Ms. Ford.
I think we got a chance to
Can't
put
say
that,
anything more about
we
it.
got a chance to put that PhD to work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I guess we will bring Ms. Bong up.
Yes.
Ms. Bong, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, I have a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. The light didn't come on until just now. Ms. Kuzak has a comment, I believe, for Ms. Ford.
All right. Thank you so much for all of the hard work. This is a document that I think that it's a moving document, one that will move as we move and articulate the business of this county. I'd like to have it as a part of our record, that each year that we would have a general overview of this document as we have done today as we present our budget. And if it would be appropriate, then I would like to make a motion, Mr. Chair, that would become a part of our budgetary process, that we will have an overview of our document as we present our final draft of our budget each year.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to make the dynamic master plan a prelude to our budget, on our budget hearings at the end of the year. Do I hear a second? I hear a second from Mr. Wagner. Very quietly, but you got it in there. Long day. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So carried 6-0. The votes this evening will be at 6-0. One is absent from the dais. So
Again,
thank you very much.
Thank you to staff and to you, Dr. Ford, for an excellent job well done, that we will continue to utilize for years to come. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Cusack. Any further comments before we move forward? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Ford. All righty. Let's try this again, Ms. Bonk. Third time's a charm, I've heard. You have the floor.
Tammy Bong, Budget and Administrative Services Director. Today we are going to be presenting your second public hearing as part of your TRIM compliance from the Department of Revenue. As you mentioned, of course, the Property Appraiser's Office is open for anybody who would like to discuss anything pertaining to your valuation or exemptions and so forth. We are here tonight, of course, to finalize the final millage rates that we're going to utilize for the 2016-17 budget, along with the, of course, dynamic master plan that we have done. And of course, this goes hand in hand with the several mini budgets that we've had throughout the year, along with the 5-year forecast. So the numbers today are hand in hand with those documents as well. The fiscal year 2016-17 operating budget is $697,416,153, and that includes the transaction from your agenda item 3 today for your Embry-Riddle University incentive. We have amended that budget, and we handed out those documents earlier today. Your non-operating budget, which is presented, is at $152,949,391. Your millage rates presented today are all flat, except for the general fund that's presented at a 6.1%, 6.1 mils. And of course, we wanted to bring to your attention, just because we have the opportunity to do such, that the reduction in the millage rate, of course, allowed us to return about 52% of the taxes that we could have collected to the homeowners of Volusia County and businesses. This also goes hand in hand with your Go to Zero plan that has been discussed in various meetings, including your forecast. And it also includes some major infrastructure that is presented within your general fund. Just wanted to mention some of those highlights of what some of that infrastructure is for the public. And some of those would include your parking development of one-time money from your general fund of $5.1 million, along with your Sheriff's Evidence Facility Lab of $5 million, your 800 megahertz backbone system of $1.5 million, and of course, additional programs from other revenue sources outside of your tax base will be your 800 megahertz radio backbone of $800,000, your courts and central services warehouse of $3.4 million, and your elections warehouse of $1.3. And this, so many of these projects are stage funding mechanisms to allow for infrastructure and pay-as-you-go versus borrowing funding. Once we mentioned this morning that your reserves have been maintained. Again, your Go to Zero plan is presented, and your reserves are sustainable, and all of your emergency reserves have been have no changes. All of your taxing funds are at your state standard, with the exception of your fire rescue fund, which of course it has a direct relationship to your level of services that you're providing. I'm going to just read into the record the millage rates that you're going to discuss tonight for the public. Your general fund millage rate is presented at 6.1 mils. Your library ad valorem tax rate is presented at 0.5520 mils. Your Volusia Forever operating is presented at 0.0930 mils, with your corresponding debt service for Volusia Forever at your 1.1070 mils. Your ECHO fund is presented at your 0.20 mils, which is part of your...
Hold on for a second.
Uh-huh.
We're not putting it on the screen. We had it on last time. It's not up there. Great, so everybody can see.
Sorry.
Yep. Yeah, there you go.
Rates. My apologies.
Thank
I
you
was
for
going
pointing
to
that
ask after you got done reading the rates, don't we normally show them?
There you
Yeah.
go. My apologies.
All better, folks.
Okay.
We're reading them, but we don't want to show you.
Your East Volusia Mosquito Control District is presented at 0.1880 mils. Your Ponce de Leon Port Authority is presented at 0.0929 mils. And your Municipal Service Tax and District is presented at 2.2399 mils. Your Silver Sands Bethune Beach is presented at 0.0150 mils. And your Fire Rescue District Fund is presented at 4.0815 mils. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions as we open up the public hearing.
Okay, I see no response, no questions. Thank you very much. Is there any other staff report on this matter?
No, sir, I'm here to answer any questions you may have, though.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, we will close public, or the staff report section and open up the public participation. Before we go too far. Where'd it go? All right, I'll just read the disclaimer here. The Volusia County Government and Volusia County Council welcomes your involvement and is interested in hearing your comments. Please complete a public participation slip and indicate in the subject line the issue you wish to address, and tonight it will be the budget. You may use the back if you have to. After you are recognized, please state your name and address for the record before beginning your comments. You may speak up to 3 minutes during our public participation on this agenda item. The County Council does not answer questions or requests during the public participation. Please be courteous and respectful of the views of others. Personal attacks on council members, county staff, or members of the public will not be tolerated. And I don't think you'll need to use the back if you just want to write budget. So, if there's anybody out there that would like to speak this evening, please fill out this form, hand it to Ms. Zimmerman, and if not, we will have our only speaker, Mr. Stanley Escudero. Mr. Ambassador, please come forward. Welcome again. And for the record, please state your name and your address, and you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Stan Escudero. I live at 3034 South Peninsula in Daytona Beach Shores. And Mr. Chairman, distinguished members of the council, Mr. Manager, and staff, I was very impressed by the review that I've made of the Dynamic Master Plan, which I find both dynamic and masterful. It is an excellent piece of administrative architecture which builds, I think, in a very commendable way upon the foundation created by the budget. And it is that budget that I want to talk about tonight, particularly the 5-year forecast. I've spoken about that to you before, and I commend you all once again for the work you did on that, because it's most unusual for any government agency to save money rather than spend it in good times when more money is coming in and even larger amounts are projected. But the 5-year forecast, which you put forward earlier, has survived the budget process intact. It promises a partial rollback of over $6 million to the taxpayers this year and a similar or larger rollback every year for the next 5 years. Property taxes may rise just a little bit for some people this year, but it would have risen much more had there not been this partial rollback. And by 2018, all bills will be paid, and there will be no general fund debt owed by the county, based on the assumption, of course, that any new general fund spending will take place, including offsetting budget cuts, that there will be no new unfunded mandates from the states, and there won't be any natural disasters like hurricanes. The fact is, this is an extraordinary piece of work. It can serve as a guiding beacon to other counties and to the 16 cities of the county of Volusia. I note that the Halifax Hospital Board has already followed suit, and it too has reduced its millage. And it's now time for other county taxing authorities, and especially the cities, to take a lesson from the county council and to do exactly the same thing. Take a careful look at their budgets and reduce the overall level of taxation which the citizens of this county face. The county, too, should review its current spending to see if any further cuts are possible that in those spending levels that you're current at, because the assumption is that all the levels of spending that you are currently engaged in are justified and should remain as they are. And that may be true, but it may not be true. And in the course of the next budget year, I hope you'll take a look at those and see if there's some way that you can reduce taxes even further. Not to be critical, just to urge. Again, kudos, thanks very much. You've done a hell of a job.
Thank you, sir. Really, thank you, sir. All right, any further public participation?
No, sir.
Very well, we will close the public participation, and we will now open it up for council discussion and action. Ms. Pong, I guess you'll start off with the general. Is that correct?
I would be happy to read into the record the millage rates and so forth. We would have to vote on each one of these separately.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Presented for your consideration tonight is your general fund ad valorem tax rate at 6.1 mils, which is 1.8% greater than the rollback rate.
Okay, Mr. Patterson?
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the general fund ad valorem tax rate of 6.1 mils.
There's a motion for approval of a general ad valorem tax rate of 6.1 by Mr. Patterson, a second by Mr. Wagner. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So carried, unanimous, which is 6-0 for all the votes.
Your general fund is presented tonight at .5520 mils, which is 5.8% greater than the rollback rate.
Excuse me?
Library,
Yes, you said general fund.
sorry, thank you for that.
Could you please restate?
The library fund ad valorem tax rate is presented at .5520 mils, which is 5.8% greater than the rollback rate.
Mr. Patterson?
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the library fund ad valorem tax rate of 0.5520 mils.
Motion for approval for library rate of .5520 mils with a second by Mr. Wagner. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So carried. Ms. Bong.
Volusia Forever operating fund is presented at .0930 mils, which is 32.9% greater than the rollback rate.
Mr. Patterson.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of Volusia Forever operating fund ad valorem tax rate of 0.0930 mils.
There's a motion for approval of Volusia Forever Tax Fund at .0930 mils. Do I hear a second? Second by Mr. Wagner. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So carried. Ms. Bong.
In order to support your debt service requirements for your Volusia Forever fund is presented at .1070 mils.
Mr. Patterson.
We're getting to have all the fun here, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, nobody else is pushing the button. If I may, before we go that far, you did skip echo?
It will be the next one I read.
Okay, I was just following it down the line.
Oh, okay.
My fault.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of Volusia Forever fund, the voted debt ad valorem tax rate of 0.1070 mils.
Motion for approval from Volusia Forever, voted debt at .1070 mil. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So carried.
Your Volusia Echo Fund is presented at your voter referendum rate of .20 mils, which is 5.6 greater than the rollback rate.
Mr. Patterson.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of Volusia Echo Fund ad valorem tax rate of 0.2000 mils.
There's a motion for approval of Volusia Echo Fund at .20 mils. Do I hear a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Kuzak. Second by Ms. Kuzak. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So carried, unanimous. Ms. Pong.
Your East Volusia Mosquito Control District is presented at .1880 mils, which is 5.9% greater than the rollback rate.
Okay, I will entertain a motion. Okay, Mr. Patterson.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of East Volusia Mosquito Control District Fund ad valorem tax rate of 0.1880 mils.
Motion for approval, East Volusia Mosquito Control District at .1880 mils. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Denny's. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So carried. Unanimous. Ms. Bong.
Your Ponce de Leon Inlet and Port District Fund is presented at .0929 mils, which is 5.8% greater than the rollback rate.
Mr. Patterson.
Move approval of the Ponce de Leon Inlet and Port District Fund ad valorem tax rate of 0.0929 mils.
Motion for approval of Ponce de Leon Port Authority ad valorem tax rate at .0929 mils. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Ms. Kuzak. There is a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So carried unanimous. Ms. Bong.
Your Municipal Service District Fund is presented at 2.2399 mils, which is 4.7% greater than the rollback rate.
Mr. Patterson.
Mr. Chair, move approval of Municipal Services District Fund ad valorem tax rate of 2.2399 mils.
There's a motion for approval of Municipal Service District ad valorem tax rate at 2.2399 mils. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Ms. Denny's is the second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So carried unanimous. Ms. Bong.
Silver Sands Bethune Beach Fund is presented at .0150 mils, which is 7.1% greater than the rollback rate.
Mr. Patterson.
Mr. Chair, move approval of Silver Sands Bethune Beach Fund ad valorem tax rate of 0.0150 mils.
Motion for approval of Silver Sands Bethune Beach MSD Fund at 0.0150 mils. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Ms. Kuzak. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed? So carried, unanimous. Ms. Bong.
Your Fire Rescue District Fund is presented at 4.0815 mils, which is 4.7% greater than the rollback rate.
Mr. Patterson.
Mr. Chair, move approval of Fire Rescue District Fund ad valorem tax rate of 4.0815 mils.
Okay, there is a motion for the Fire Rescue Services District ad valorem tax rate of 4.0815 mils. Do I hear a second? Mr. Wagner is second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And so carried unanimous. Ms. Bong.
Thank you. In your package today is a Schedule 2, which is a detailed list of every fund that's within the operating budget. Over 60 funds is presented for your total operating budget. Your operating budget is presented at $697,416,153, and your non-operating budget is presented at $152,949,391.
Mr. Patterson.
Mr. Chair, I move approval to adopt the fiscal year 2016-2017 final operating budget totaling $697,416,153 and a non-operating budget of $152,949,391.
Okay, motion for approval of the operating budget for Volusia County Government. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Denny's. Any further discussion? It's a big number. All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So carried unanimous. Ms. Bong, is that it? There it is. 6. Okay. Anything else?
That
Ms.
meets your trim compliance for this evening.
I'm sorry, say again?
That meets your trim compliance for this evening.
Is there any further discussion, public or private? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion for adjournment. Motion for adjournment. Is there a second? Can I have a second? Thank you. Thank you. And we're further discussion?
One quick thing.
Mr. Wagner has the floor.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you for those comments. Appreciate you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, we are adjourned. And I just